The great hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light from 1,000 stars. The curved walls seemed to capture the glow of nearby nebulas, making the room feel like a piece of space itself. In the center stood Patricia Miller, her blue, diplomatic uniform crisp against her tall frame. She took a deep breath and tried to hide her growing frustration. For 6 months, Patricia had sat through these meetings. For 6 months, she had listened to the council talk down to her. They used big words and fancy language, but their message was always the same. Humans were too young, too inexperienced, and too dangerous to join as equals. Today was no different. The Valerian representative, a tall being with scales that changed color with his mood, was speaking again. The council has reviewed Earth's latest proposal, he said, his scales shifting to a smug purple. We find it ambitious for a species of your development stage. Patricia nodded politely as she had been trained to do. Behind her, William Gray, her young assistant, shifted uncomfortably. William had dark hair and serious eyes that missed nothing. He had been against these talks from the start. Thank you, High Minister, Patricia said. Earth appreciates your consideration. The chamber held representatives from 17 different alien species. Some looked almost human. Others were so different that Patricia still struggled to read their expressions. All of them shared one thing. They saw humans as children playing with dangerous toys. The Zoltharian representative raised a limb. Unlike the elegant Valerian, Zoltharians looked like walking sea creatures with tentacles around their mouths. When they spoke, the tentacles moved in patterns that helped translate emotion. If Earth wishes to continue toward probationary membership, the Zoltharian said, the Council requires you to accept our military oversight program. This is for your protection, of course. Young species often misuse their weapons. Patricia felt her smile becoming harder to maintain. The oversight program was just a fancy way of saying Earth would surrender control of its ships and defense systems. She had warned the Council twice now that such demands would not be accepted. William leaned forward slightly. Ambassador, he whispered. A message from Earth. Patricia glanced down at the small screen he held. The message was short and clear. Enough. 6 months ago, Earth had been excited to join the galactic community. Humans had worked for decades to develop faster-than-light travel, the technology that had finally brought them to the attention of the Council. Earth leaders had pictured a future of cooperation and exchange of knowledge. Instead, they had found a club that didn't want new members. Patricia straightened her shoulders. She hadn't expected to use the backup plan so soon, but she was ready. Esteemed representatives of the Council, she said, her voice cutting through the Zoltharian's ongoing speech. Several delegates looked shocked at the interruption. Such rudeness was not acceptable in council meetings. Ambassador Miller, the Valerian said, his scales now turning an annoyed red. The Zoltharian delegate has not finished speaking. I apologize for the interruption, Patricia said, though her tone made it clear she didn't really feel sorry. But I have an important announcement from Earth. The room grew quiet. Even the floating translation devices seemed to hover closer. After careful consideration of the Council's terms and conditions, Earth has decided to withdraw from membership negotiations, effective immediately. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then the room exploded with noise. The Valerian's scales flashed through every color. The Zoltharian's tentacles twisted into knots. Some representatives stood up while others began talking to their assistants in urgent whispers. You cannot simply withdraw, the Valerian finally said, raising his voice over the noise. No species has ever rejected council membership. And yet, Patricia said calmly, that is exactly what we are doing. William Gray stepped forward with a small data device. This contains formal notice of our withdrawal and the boundaries of human space. We expect all council ships to respect these boundaries going forward. The council security chief, a large being named Kraz Thul, with 4 arms and gray skin, moved toward them. Ambassador Miller, this is highly irregular. Perhaps we should discuss this privately before any hasty actions are taken. Patricia shook her head. Earth's decision is final. We came seeking partnership, not control. The terms offered by the Council are unacceptable. You don't understand what you're doing, the Valerian said, his voice dropping to a warning tone. There are dangers in the galaxy that young species cannot face alone. Perhaps, Patricia agreed. But humans prefer to face those dangers on our own terms rather than surrender our freedom for protection. She nodded to William, and together they turned to leave. The Council representatives continued to call after them, but Patricia didn't look back. Their ship was ready, and Earth had been preparing for this possibility from the start. As they walked down the crystal corridor toward the docking bay, William finally smiled. They really didn't expect that, did they? No, Patricia said. The Council is used to species begging for membership, not walking away. That's why they never took our concerns seriously. What happens now? William asked as they passed a group of stunned-looking Council security officers. Now we activate independent shield, Patricia said. The defense network has been ready for months, and we unseal the restricted technology programs. William looked surprised. All of them? Even the phase drive? Patricia nodded. Everything. The Council thought they were negotiating with a species, barely able to reach their space. They're about to learn how wrong they were. Their ship, the Earth vessel Defiant, waited in the docking bay. It looked simple and unimpressive compared to the elegant Council vessels around it, that, like many things about humanity's presentation to the Council, had been deliberately misleading. As they boarded, Patricia took one last look at the massive Council station. For a moment, she felt a pang of regret for what might have been. But the Council had made their position clear. Humans would always be second-class members at best. Set course for Earth, Patricia told the captain as they reached the bridge. Maximum speed once we clear Council space. The Defiant pulled away from the station, accelerating faster than any Council observer would have believed possible. Behind them, the Council's emergency alarms began to sound. On Earth, Defense Secretary Ethan Collins watched the live transmission from Patricia's ship. Around him, the unified government cabinet waited tensely. They've left Council space, he announced. Operation Independent Shield is now active. Across human space, hidden defense platforms powered up. Cloaked satellites revealed themselves, and the message went out to all human ships and colonies. The negotiations had failed. Earth stood alone but not unprepared. The Council's emergency meeting chamber was filled with angry voices. Representatives from all 17 species had gathered just hours after the humans left. Nobody could believe what had happened. They can't simply walk away, shouted the Valerian minister, his scales now a bright angry red. No species has ever rejected Council membership. Krazthul, the Council's security chief, paced back and forth. His forearms were crossed tightly across his chest, and his gray skin had a worried tint to it. The human ship left our space at speeds we did not expect, he said. Our tracking systems lost them near the Hextari belt. The Zoltharian representative's face tentacles twisted with frustration. How could they move so fast? Their ships are supposed to be primitive. In the center of the room stood Amanda Porter. She was a human diplomat who had chosen to stay behind after Patricia left. Amanda was shorter than Patricia, with short brown hair and calm eyes. She watched the Council argue among themselves and waited. Finally, the Valerian noticed her. You, explain your species' actions immediately. Amanda stepped forward without showing fear. Earth's decision is final, she said simply. We came here looking for partners, not masters. Your terms would make humans second-class citizens in your system. Absurd, the Zoltharian said, tentacles waving wildly. Your species is barely 2,000 years past making simple tools. You need guidance. Amanda smiled slightly. Maybe. But we would rather make our own mistakes than follow your orders. She reached into her pocket and took out a small silver device. She placed it on the table in front of her. This data package contains maps showing human space boundaries, she explained. We ask all Council ships to stay out of these areas from now on. The Valerian stepped closer to Amanda, towering over her. You don't understand what you're doing. There are dangers in the galaxy. We understand perfectly, Amanda interrupted. This was another breach of council etiquette, but she didn't care anymore. Humanity stands alone now. She turned to leave. The council representatives watched in shock as she walked toward the door. Wait, called the Valerian. This discussion is not finished. But Amanda left without looking back. She had a small ship waiting. She would be back in Earth space before the council could decide what to do next. On Earth, Defense Secretary Ethan Collins stood in front of a large screen. The room was deep underground, in the heart of the unified government's defense headquarters. Around him sat 12 people, the leaders of Earth's government. Operation Independent Shield is now fully active, Ethan reported. All human colonies have defense systems online. Our borders are secure. President Maria Sanchez nodded. She was a serious woman with gray in her dark hair. She had hoped the council would be reasonable, but she had also prepared for this outcome. And our technology deployment, she asked. Proceeding as planned, Ethan said. The advanced drive systems are being installed in all major ships. The weapons we kept hidden during talks are now being distributed. George Wong, the science minister, spoke up. What about the phase drive project? That's our most advanced technology. Being installed on our 5 largest ships, Ethan confirmed. The council has no idea we developed it. They still think our faster-than-light drives are basic models. Maria looked around the table. For 50 years we watched the council before, making contact. We saw how they treated other young species. We hoped they would be different with us, but we prepared in case they weren't. What will they do now? Asked Samantha Lee, the economic minister. Ethan touched the screen, bringing up a map of nearby space. We expect them to send ships to our borders. They'll want to show force to scare us back to the negotiating table. They don't know our real capabilities yet. And if they cross our borders? Vice President Joe Rivera asked. Then they'll learn, Maria said firmly. 2 days later, Amanda Porter's small ship reached Earth space. As she approached Earth, she saw the changes that had happened in just a short time. Defense platforms that had been hidden were now visible. Ships she had never seen before patrolled the borders. When she landed in Washington, Ethan Collins was waiting for her. Welcome home, he said as she stepped off her ship. How did they take it? Amanda smiled. Badly. They couldn't believe we would walk away. Did they suspect anything? No, Amanda said as they walked toward a waiting car. They still think we're a young species with basic technology. They have no idea what we're really capable of. In the car, Ethan showed her images from across human space. The 27 human colonies, spread across 15 star systems, were all preparing. Factories that had been disguised as research stations were now openly producing advanced weapons and defense systems. What do you think they'll do? Amanda asked. First, they'll try to scare us, Ethan said. Then, when that doesn't work, they'll try to talk. They need access to the trade, routes through our space. And we'll use that as our bargaining chip, Amanda concluded. The car stopped at the government headquarters. Inside, President Maria was waiting with the rest of the cabinet. Good work, Amanda, Maria said. Your reports from the council over. The past 6 months helped us prepare. They never took us seriously, Amanda said. That was their mistake. Maria nodded. We've lived in peace on Earth for almost 100 years. We've learned to work together, but we haven't forgotten how to stand up for ourselves. She turned to a large screen showing the new defensive line around Earth's space. The Council will soon discover that humanity isn't as simple or as weak as they thought. On the Council's central world, the Valerian High Minister sat in his private chamber. The emergency meetings had continued for 2 days with no solution. Now he faced a call he didn't want to make. He activated his communication system. The face that appeared was not from any known council species. It had pale blue skin and 6 eyes that blinked in sequence. The humans have left the negotiations, the Valerian reported. They know about the border regions. The blue face showed no emotion. This is unexpected. No species has rejected the council before. What should we do? Watch them closely, the blue face said. If they truly know about the border regions, they may discover what lies beyond. That cannot be allowed. Should we force them to return to talks? No. First, we must learn what they truly know, and what they are truly capable of. The communication ended, leaving the Valerian alone with his thoughts. He had believed humans were simple creatures who would gratefully accept the Council's guidance. Now he wondered if he had completely misjudged them. He looked at the small silver device Amanda had left behind. The data inside showed human claims extending to regions of space the Council had always avoided. Regions that hid secrets no young species should discover. The Valerian felt, for the first time in many years, a sense of worry. Perhaps humans were more dangerous than anyone had realized. 2 weeks passed since humans walked away from the Council. In a secret meeting room deep inside the Council's main station, a small group gathered. This was the Intelligence Committee, made up of the most trusted members from different species. Intelligence Director Garlax stood at the center. He was tall and thin with gray skin similar to Krazathul, but Garlax had 6 arms instead of 4. Each arm controlled a different part of a complex display floating in the air before him. The humans deceived us, he said simply. The images in the display changed to show various parts of space. There were human outposts in places the Council didn't know about. Some were disguised as simple research stations. Others had been completely hidden. These outposts, Garlax continued, were built over the last 5 years. We never detected them because they used cloaking technology far more advanced than what the humans claimed to have. The Valerian minister's scales turned a worried blue. How is this possible? Their ship seemed so basic. They showed us what they wanted us to see, Garlax replied. Our readings now show energy signatures that suggest technology far beyond what they disclosed during talks. At the back of the room, Lisa Martinez finally spoke up. She was a human who had been working with the Council for years before Earth's official contact. She had brown skin and dark hair pulled back tightly. Her face showed no emotion as every eye in the room turned to her. I tried to warn you, she said. Humanity's history is full of stories about preparing for the worst while hoping for the best. The Morrican representative, a being made of living crystal that caught the light as he moved, made a sound like breaking glass. For his kind, it was laughter. You expect us to believe you didn't know about this deception? He asked. Lisa shrugged. I've been with the Council for 12 years. Earth kept me in the dark about their contingency plans, but I'm not surprised they had them. Explain, demanded the Valerian. Earth spent decades watching you before making official contact, Lisa said. We intercepted Council communications. We saw how you treated other developing species. We understood your pattern. The room erupted with angry voices accusing Earth of spying. Lisa waited until they quieted. Call it what you want. But humanity saw your methods clearly. You assess a new species' technology, infiltrate their culture, create economic dependency, then absorb them under your guidance, all while promising protection and partnership. The Valerian scales were now almost black with anger. You cannot possibly understand. The border regions? Lisa interrupted. The dangers that lie beyond known space. Yes, humans know about those too. Complete silence fell over the room. Even Garlax stopped moving his 6 arms. The mention of the border regions was unexpected. The Valerian found his voice first. How could you possibly know about that? Lisa's expression remained neutral. As I said, we've been listening for a very long time. Garlax cleared his throat and changed the images on the display. There is more, he said. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive energy signatures along the borders of human space. They are building something big. The display showed dots of bright light arranged in patterns around the edge of human territory. Whatever they were building, it formed a complete ring around their space. What is it? Asked the Morrican. We don't know, Garlax admitted, but the energy output is beyond anything we've seen before. Lisa watched their worried faces. She knew what humans were building, but she had no intention of sharing that information. Let the council worry. They had earned it with their arrogance. The human colony New Terra. Governor Nancy Wright stood on a platform overlooking a massive construction site. The planet had rich resources and a comfortable atmosphere. It had been one of the first worlds colonized when humans ventured into space. Beside her stood Chief Engineer Rick Hall, a tall man with dark skin and strong hands that never seemed to stop moving. He pointed to the huge ring structure taking shape in the valley below. The gate will be operational within 6 days, he reported. Once New Terra's gate connects to the network, all major human worlds will be linked. Nancy nodded with satisfaction. The Phase Gate network was humanity's greatest achievement, a system that allowed instant travel between worlds. No ships, no travel time. Step through one gate and emerge from another light years away in an instant. The council has no idea, do they? She asked. Rick shook his head. No, we kept the phase gates completely secret. They still think we rely on ships for all travel and communication. Below them, hundreds of workers and machines moved around the massive ring. It was nearly a mile across, made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. What about the defense systems? Nancy asked. Fully operational, Rick replied. Each gate can be shut down instantly if needed, and the outer defense ring is almost complete. Nancy smiled. Perfect. Once the network is complete, it won't matter. If the council tries to block our ships, we won't need them anymore. Back at the council station, the intelligence meeting had been going for hours. Garlax had shared more discoveries about human activities. None of them were comforting. They've established outposts here, here, and here, he said, pointing to different locations on the display. All near the border regions. The Valerian looked at Lisa. Do they know what lies beyond? Lisa met his gaze calmly. What do you think? Morrican made that glass-breaking sound again, but this time it wasn't laughter. It was fear. If they open the borders, then what? Lisa challenged. What exactly are you hiding out there? No one answered. The secret of the border regions was the council's most closely guarded information. Only the highest members knew the full truth. But it was clear now that humans had discovered at least parts of it. Garlax changed the subject. We must decide on a response to their withdrawal. Do we accept their claimed borders? Do we try to bring them back to negotiations? Or do we show force? The Valerian scales shifted to a deep purple, the color of careful thought. We need more information before deciding. We must send ships to observe their activities more closely. They've made it clear they don't want council ships in their space, Lisa reminded them. We will respect their boundaries, the Valerian said, for now. But we will watch closely from just outside. Lisa stood up. I'll inform Earth of your decision. She left the room. She heard the Morrican say to the others, and can we trust her? She is human after all. She smiled to herself. They were right not to trust her completely. Her loyalty was to Earth, even after 12 years with the Council, and she knew what the others in that room didn't. What humans were really building wasn't just defense systems. It was something that would change the balance of power forever, and if the Council made the wrong move, they would find out just how prepared humanity really was. 3 months passed since humanity walked away from the Council. What began as a diplomatic problem had grown into something much worse. Council ships throughout the galaxy were reporting problems. Captain Narration of the Council trade ship Celestial Wealth stared at his control panel in confusion. His ship had lost all navigation ability. The engines worked, but the ship couldn't tell where it was or where it was going. Try the backup systems again, he ordered his crew. A few minutes later, his second-in-command shook her head. Still, not working, Captain. It's like something is blocking all our navigation signals. Narration looked out the viewport. They were traveling through what had once been an open trade route, but now this area fell within what humans claimed as their territory. He had decided to pass through anyway. The route had been used by Council ships for thousands of years. Surely the humans couldn't really block it. He was wrong. A light flashed on his control panel. Captain, we're receiving a message. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was a woman with dark skin and short hair. She wore a simple blue uniform with no markings of rank. Council Vessel Celestial Wealth, you have entered human space without permission. Your systems have been temporarily disabled for security reasons. Please stand by. This is outrageous, Narration shouted. This trade route has been open for... The woman cut him off. This route now passes through human space. You were warned. Boundary markers were placed. You chose to ignore them. Before Narration could respond, the screen went dark. Through the viewport, he saw 3 small ships appear seemingly out of nowhere. They surrounded his vessel completely. Where did they come from? His second-in-command whispered. Our sensors showed nothing. The human woman appeared on screen again. Your ship will be towed back to Council space. There will be no further warnings. Next time, use the approved routes outside our borders. To Narration's horror, his massive trade ship began to move backward, pulled by the 3 tiny human vessels. Their power was impossible. Such small ships shouldn't be able to move his heavy vessel. 2 days later, the Council received the Celestial Wealth at the edge of human space. The ship was undamaged, but the cargo was 3 days late, and Captain Narration had a frightening story to tell about human technology that seemed almost magical. In the Council's emergency session chamber, Economic, Minister Jeff Daniels stood before the assembled representatives. Jeff was another human who had stayed with the Council after Earth's withdrawal. He was tall and thin with pale skin and red hair. Unlike Lisa Martinez, who worked in intelligence, Jeff monitored economic patterns. 17 critical supply chains have been disrupted, he reported. 5 Council worlds are now reporting resource shortages. The economic impact is growing worse each day. The Valerian minister's scales had turned a sickly yellow with worry. How bad will it get? Jeff displayed a chart showing trade routes throughout Council space. Many lines crossed through areas now claimed by humans. All those routes were marked in red. Without access to these routes, delivery times increase by 30 to 400%. Some shipments can't reach their destinations at all. The Zoltharian representative's face tentacles twisted angrily. The humans cannot block historical trade routes. It violates galactic law. Jeff remained calm. Earth never signed your galactic laws. And they're offering alternatives. There are new routes mapped around human space. They're longer, yes, but safe to travel. The Morican representative made an angry sound like shattering glass. This is economic warfare. How did they build so much so quickly? The defensive platforms, the interference systems, the patrol ships, it would take years to create such a network. They didn't build it quickly, Jeff explained. These installations were constructed gradually over the past decade. Some were disguised as commercial outposts. Others were hidden by technology you didn't know humans had. The Council chamber fell quiet as the truth sank in. Humanity had been preparing for this moment long before formal contact with the Council. The negotiations had been a test, one the Council had failed. We must send military vessels, the Zoltharian said finally. Show these humans they cannot challenge the Council. Jeff shook his head. I strongly advise against that. You don't understand what you'd be facing. Explain, demanded the Valerian. The defensive network isn't just about blocking trade, Jeff said. It's a full military system, and it's far more advanced than anything you've seen from humans so far. On New Terra Colony, the phase gate was complete. Governor Nancy Wright stood with a large crowd in front of the massive ring. The dark metal structure hummed with power, the center of the ring filled with a shimmering blue light. Today marks a new chapter for humanity, Nancy said to the crowd. This gate connects New Terra directly to Earth. A journey that once took weeks now happens in seconds. To demonstrate, a group of 20 people walked up to the gate. They stepped through the shimmering blue light and vanished. On a large screen, beside the gate, the crowd could see them emerge from Earth's gate seconds later, over 10 light-years away. The crowd cheered wildly. Every human colony would soon have a gate. Ships would still be needed for exploration in new areas, but the core of human space would be connected instantly. Chief Engineer Rick Hall joined Nancy as the crowd celebrated. "All gates are now operational," he reported. "The network is complete." Nancy nodded with satisfaction. "And the council?" "Still has no idea," Rick said. "They're focused on our defensive systems and the trade route blockades. They haven't figured out how we're moving people and supplies so quickly between worlds." "Let's keep it that way for now," Nancy said. "The longer they underestimate us, the better." Back in council space, a military fleet was gathering. Despite warnings from both Jeff and Lisa, the council had voted to send ships to the edge of human space as a show of force. Admiral Krax, a Valerian with battle-scarred scales, addressed his captains. "We will approach the human boundary, but not cross it. Our goal is to demonstrate council power and unity. Perhaps then these humans will reconsider their foolish independence." One captain raised a concern. "The reports from the trade ships suggest humans have technology we don't understand." "Should we be cautious?" Admiral Krax made a dismissive gesture. "They are still a young species. Their tricks with trade ships are merely that, tricks. They cannot stand against a proper council fleet." As the military vessels prepared to depart, Lisa Martinez watched from a distance. She had already sent a warning to Earth. The council was making exactly the mistake she had expected. Little did they know that humans were waiting. The phase gates had changed everything. Humans could move their entire fleet to any point in their territory almost instantly. By the time the council ships arrived at the border, they would find not just defensive platforms, but a full human fleet waiting for them. The true test of council pride was about to begin. 1 year had passed since humanity walked away from the council. What had begun as a diplomatic problem, then grown into an economic crisis, was now forcing the most significant change in council history. The council chamber looked different today. The usual circular arrangement of seats had been changed to create 2 equal sides. On one side sat the council representatives. On the other, a delegation from Earth had arrived. Frank Nelson led the human group. He was older than Patricia Miller had been, with gray hair and a direct gaze. He had spent 40 years as a diplomat before this assignment. This was the most important job of his career. The Valerian High Minister looked tired. His scales, once bright and colorful, now stayed a dull blue. The past year had been difficult for the council. Trade disruptions had caused shortages across their space. Attempts to intimidate humans with military displays had failed completely. When the council fleet had arrived at the human border 3 months ago, they found not just defensive platforms, but a massive human fleet waiting for them. Ships appeared, from nowhere, surrounding the council vessels without firing a shot. The message was clear. Humans were ready for anything. Now finally the council had requested new talks, but this time, the terms were different. "Welcome, Ambassador Nelson," the Valerian said. His voice lacked the confidence it once had. "The council appreciates Earth's willingness to discuss a new relationship." Frank nodded politely. "Thank you, High Minister. Earth is always open to fair discussions between equals." That word, equals, hung in the air. A year ago, the council would never have accepted it. Now they had no choice. "We have reviewed the proposed treaty," the Valerian continued. "The terms are unusual in council history." "They're quite simple," Frank said. "Open trade based on mutual benefit, no interference in internal affairs, mutual defense only against threats to galactic stability." The Zultharian representative's face tentacles moved in patterns, showing discomfort. "Such terms have never been offered to a non-member species before." "Then perhaps it's time for the council to evolve," Frank suggested. His voice was friendly but firm. The council members looked at each other. They had spent the past year watching human power grow. The defensive network around human space was now complete. Trade routes were firmly controlled. And intelligence. Reports suggested something else. Other young species were watching carefully. If the council couldn't handle humans properly, others might follow their example. "We are prepared to agree to these terms," the Valerian said finally. "But we have one question. Why did Earth really leave the negotiations last year? Was this your plan all along?" To force us into treating you as equals? Frank smiled slightly. Humanity hoped for recognition, prepared for rejection, and was ready for independence. The choice was always yours. Later that day, in a private chamber, the Valerian High Minister signed the Treaty of Proxima Centauri. It was the first equal partnership agreement in Council history. As he set down his ceremonial pen, he looked at Frank. "You must understand our concern," he said quietly. "For 8,000 years, the Council has guided younger species. We've helped them avoid mistakes, protected them from dangers they weren't ready to face." "Like the dangers beyond the border regions?" Frank asked. The Valerian's scales flashed with surprise. "You really do know about that?" "Yes," Frank said. "We've known for some time what the Council has been hiding out there." The Valerian lowered his voice further. "Then you understand why we're so protective of younger species. What lies beyond those borders is not something anyone should face unprepared." Frank nodded. "Perhaps, but each species must choose its own path. Protection cannot come at the cost of freedom." As he left the chamber, Frank felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Phase 1 of humanity's plan was complete. Equal status with the Council was just the beginning. On Earth, President Julia Reeves addressed the Unified Government Assembly. Screens around the world and throughout human colonies showed her speech. "Today marks a new chapter in human history," she said. "The Treaty of Proxima Centauri establishes humanity as an equal partner with the Galactic Council. We have earned our place among the stars not through conquest, but through resolve, not through aggression, but through preparation and determination." The assembly erupted in applause. After a year of tension, the results were better than anyone had hoped for. Trade routes were reopening, Council restrictions were lifted, and humanity remained independent, free to develop in its own way. "But our journey is just beginning," Julia continued when the applause died down. "What we've learned about the galaxy, particularly about what lies beyond the border regions, means we must remain vigilant." The room grew quiet. Only the highest government officials knew what humanity had discovered beyond those borders. It was information the Council had hidden for thousands of years. "The Phase Gate network will continue to expand," Julia said. "Our defensive capabilities will grow, and we will reach out to other young species who, like us, deserve the right to determine their own futures." At a small observation post at the edge of human space, Captain Don Mitchell sat at his monitoring station. He was alone, except for the advanced AI systems that helped him watch this remote section of the border. His screen lit up with an alert. Something was coming from deep space, outside both human and Council territory, from beyond the border regions. He checked the readings, twice to be sure, then he sent the emergency signal to Earth headquarters. Within minutes, Admiral Lucy Coleman appeared on his screen. "Report, Captain." "Admiral, we're picking up a signal from beyond the border. It's not like anything we've seen before." Lucy's face showed no emotion, but Don could sense her tension. "Can you decode it?" "Working on it now," Don replied, his fingers moving quickly over the controls. "It's not using any standard communication protocol." As they watched, symbols appeared on the screen. They weren't letters or numbers from any known language, but somehow as Don looked at them, he began to understand. "It's a message," he said slowly. "I think it says, 'We have watched, we are impressed, may we talk?'" Lucy was silent for a moment. Then she said, "It seems the Council isn't the only group that's been watching humanity. Send a reply. We are listening." As Don prepared the message, he realized humanity's true introduction to the galaxy had only just begun. The Council had been just the first step. Whatever lay beyond the border regions, whatever the Council had been hiding or protecting against for thousands of years, was now reaching out. And humanity, unlike the Council, was ready to listen.